Here in Chicago, we have the luxury of turning on the tap and having water flow out. Have you ever thought of where that water comes from or how our lives affect our water source? All of Chicago and the surrounding suburbs' water comes from Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world. Before the city of Chicago became developed in the early 1800s, we had a very distinct watershed. For those that don't know, a watershed is a portion of land that separates water flow between lakes, rivers, or streams. Lake Michigan's watershed in Chicago was roughly on Clark Street back in the day. Today, this watershed has been destroyed, and almost 0% of rainwater, runoff, or water removed from the lake is returned. This is due to modern sewage systems that pump water away from the lake to wastewater treatment plants that then send the water down the sanitary canal to eventually end up in the Gulf of Mexico. This is clearly not normal. In a normal water cycle, runoff and rain flow to their respective waterways based off the watershed. As I mentioned earlier, all water removed from Lake Michigan and all water intended to go back into the lake is pumped away through the sewage systems. On top of this, the flow of the Chicago River runs away from the lake, which we caused by dredging the river. This means that we do not replenish the lake with water we remove from it. Global warming has also worsened the problem as rainfall and snowfall are unpredictable, so we can no longer rely on constant rain and snow to replenish lake water. We don't return any water to the lake because of fear of contaminating the lake and our city's water source. We also fear that invasive fish and plants could flow back into the river and into the lake. In order to semi-return Chicago's water cycle back to normal, there have been proposals to set up barriers in Chicago to divert flows from portions back into the lake. Many environmentalists would like this as it helps to return our water cycle back to normal and it helps to restore our lost watershed. Also, trees and plants near the lakefront have a harder time getting water from the ground since we pump most of this water away from the lakefront. This means that the city has to use sprinklers and other methods to supply vegetation on the lakefront with the proper amount of water. Another problem that trees and plants face along the lakefront are invasive species. Lake Michigan is home to many invasive fish and plants, and there are many reasons for this. One of the main reasons for invasive species in the lake pre-1990 is due to cargo ship ballast water. Ballast water is water that cargo ships pump into tanks to keep the ship balanced when unloading and loading cargo. This water is typically water not from Lake Michigan, and this water typically contains many non-native species that get discharged into the lake. Nowadays, the discharge of ballast water is highly regulated. Many of these invasive plants that got introduced have disrupted the native trees and plants living along Lake Michigan. Now for facts about Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan is located in the upper Midwest of the United States and, as said previously, is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world. Lake Michigan is a part of the 5 Great Lakes, which make up 21% of the world's surface unfrozen freshwater. Some of the abiotic factors of the lake are the lake itself, the amount of sunlight, and the type of lake bottom. Biotic-wise, Lake Michigan is full of fish and other creatures. It is home to many bass, trout, perch, and much more. Some of the limiting factors are invasive species, overfishing, and water temperature, especially in the winter. Thanks for watching my video on Lake Michigan and Lake Michigan's watershed.